What is good, everybody? Welcome to another Gold Standard production. This is Under Review with me, Rob Stats Guerrera, and Vish Kumaran. What's up, Vish? Happy after a 49ers victory, baby?
Yeah, I was actually a little more excited about that one than I thought. We were talking on the phone earlier. You said you were getting into it. You were happy. Look at you on a victory Monday.
I almost wore my Victory Monday shirt, but I decided I'm only going to do that for the regular
It's a little
season.
premature. It's a little premature, Rob. Come on.
Don't want to go with the Victory Monday in the preseason.
We don't put up banners for NFC Championship games here. Come on, Rob.
Right, we're not the Baltimore Ravens here, where we're celebrating preseason victories. We're not going to do that.
Where you play your third string quarterback as your second string quarterback, and your second string quarterback as your third string one, so that he can get you a victory late with the third stringers.
It's insane. Anyway, please rate, review, follow the Gold Standard Podcast Network, like and subscribe to the channel, like and subscribe to Vish Kumaran's YouTube channel, where this is also streaming. You should absolutely subscribe to both. Unlike some content creators, I'm not going to tell you who you should or more specifically, who you shouldn't listen to. You should listen to everybody. Listen to everybody. You'll get the most complete picture possible. All right. Shout out to all the YouTube channel members, by the way. I see Benjamin Bears here. What's up? Hey, Rob, the late start gave me time to catch up on the latest from your girl, Kay.
Kay. Whoa.
She's making the case that Trey should be traded to Minnesota. Jesus. We'll get to Trey Lance. We're going to get to Trey. We're going to get to Darnold. We're going to take a second look at everything that happened on Saturday night. And I'm just going to start flat out with it, Vish. Flat out. There is no reason Trey Lance should not be QB2 on this team. He absolutely should be the backup quarterback. It is clear. He should have always been the backup quarterback, at least. And through 2 preseason games, I have seen absolutely nothing that tells me that Sam Darnold should be QB2.
So I'm going to disagree with you right off the bat.
I know you would.
Yeah, so I think there's 2 ways to look at it. Now, if you ask me who I think has been better between Trey Lance and Sam Darnold through two preseason games, I can't talk this morning, I would say Trey Lance 100%. But if you ask me, who do I think Shanahan would prefer as the backup? After 2 preseason games, I would actually say it's Sam Darnold, and here's why. I think Trey Lance's high-end plays in both preseason games have been much better than Sam Darnold, right? He threw a seed to Willie Snead yesterday. In fact, I thought his 3 best plays yesterday weren't even resulting in the stat sheet. The first one was when he got that zone blitz where they kind of bailed out to like some form of 3 deep on the zone blitz, and he threw the corner to Cam Latu, getting absolutely railroaded. That was an incredible throw. Probably should have been caught. Latu didn't really track the ball. Then he had the one off schedule where he had a really, really nice pocket movement, moving around the left tackle, allowing the left tackle to push the end around and then stepping up and through the pocket. And he threw a really sweet ball to Tay Martin that was kind of layered, that Tay Martin dropped and a holding penalty negated. And then finally that one throw to Ronnie Bell on JT O'Sullivan killed the play. I saw the breakdown of that because it was a 9-man protection, 1-man route, but it was really a great throw from Trey Lance, and Ronnie Bell dropped it. So I think Trey Lance has played better than Sam Darnold, but there's been consistency to Sam Darnold's level of play, whereas Trey Lance has been very inconsistent, I feel like, play to play in terms of what you're getting. The high end of what you're getting looks like he should be starting somewhere, but there has been perplexing moments too where I feel like the low end makes me understand why he's not starting over Brock Purdy. Like, to me, what we saw yesterday was really just that. Like, the best of Trey Lance says he should be a starter, like, right now somewhere. And the worst of it explains why he's not starting on this team over Brock Purdy.
If you're watching on the stream, you can see the graphic I have comparing the 2 players this preseason. And this is it with Sam Darnold and Trey Lance. This is what I feel like it has come down to. And I specifically didn't want to tell you this when we talked before the show because I wanted to save it. I want to save your reaction for when we get on the air. People would rather see a smooth 3-and-out with Sam Darnold than a bumpy scoring drive with Trey Lance. That's what it is. Coaches feel better about a smooth drive that just ends and, you know what, we punt, than Trey Lance potentially having a really bad miss on a guy that's open over the middle and, another incompletion or a sack, and then a long completion on 3rd down to keep the drive going. Nope, they don't want that. They want it to look good, even if the drive is not as successful. And look, here is the breakdown, okay? Lance has had 10 drives this preseason. Darnold has had 8. Lance has led 4 scoring drives. Darnold has led 1. Now, one of Trey's was the dropped interception that went for a touchdown. I get that, okay? But I'm just giving you the raw numbers. Trey's had 3 punts on his drive. Sam Darnold has had 2. There have been 3 Darnold turnovers on his drives. Trey Lance has had 2. Again, not all those are Darnold's fault, right? His interception to Ronnie Bell, not his fault. The Cameron Latu fumble is not Sam Darnold's fault. But these are the facts. And you know what?
I don't think that's how it's going to be evaluated. That's the problem. I'm not telling you that I agree with you. Trey Lance has been better than Sam Darnold. But what I'm telling you is I don't think it's going to be evaluated where people are just going to look at the results of their drive. There's going to be a play-to-play positive, negative reaction. And while Trey Lance's positives have been better than Darnold, the negative plays that have been there in the Raiders game and yesterday are the kind of plays that I feel like would scare a coach. At
What
least
negative
from what
play?
I've
The
seen.
screen? The screen?
The
Is
screen,
that like so terrible?
the screen is a tough play. The reaction to phantom pressure. The play I thought JT O'Sullivan was a little too hard on. I mean, Hank is a West Coast concept that's been installed in playbooks since the 80s with Bill Walsh. It's curl flats. People know that in Madden. And he made a mistake on it. Like I'm not trying to Rob, I'm not saying it's my opinion. I'm just saying that I've observed from afar how NFL coaches react to this. And my guess is that only because of that, Kyle would look at it that way. I'm not trying to tell you, Rob, I feel this way and I can argue from that standpoint. I'm telling you my perspective is that Kyle will look at it this way. And I think there's a difference with that.
I see what you're saying, but I think that, like, what's the difference if Sam Darnold throws short of the sticks on 3rd down and the 49ers have to punt, or if Trey Lance misses that concept that you're talking about and the 49ers have to punt? The result is the same. Just because Darnold's looks better doesn't matter. Like, I feel like that they're getting caught up.
These are direct questions to Kyle, right? Because, like, to me, I watched them through 2 preseason games, Rob, and I don't understand why there's a competition between both of them unless you're trying to find who's better suited to be the backup on your team. Because to me, yeah, there's consistency to Sam Darnold's level of play. Sure, if I cut up his 7 best throws in every game, like, maybe you're going to look at it and you're going to feel like that's a good quarterback, but you kind of know what he is. And with Trey Lance, like, there's been a lot of intriguing improvements that he has made this offseason. So to me, if all things were being equal, there's clearly one quarterback that's worth more investment than the other, but we're not there with this team. And all 3 quarterbacks look fairly good, I would say, overall.
I don't think Darnold looks good. Why does he look good? He can't lead the team to scoring. He's been in the league for half a
Rob,
decade.
is that all? Like, I mean, come on. A couple of those blitzes, they literally didn't protect. Like, I don't know what was going on in the protection. The left tackle literally leaves the guy on the edge unblocked, and he's hot on the other side. I don't know why he's hot on the other side and why he leaves the end unblocked, and he takes a sack, and that's a 3 and out. Okay, we can put that on him, but that's not really on him, is that?
That stuff happens during the regular season too. We got to stop evaluating these guys. Well, let's only evaluate him if everything went perfect, right? That's not how it works. See, that's why I think Kyle doesn't value the preseason games enough, because he likes to control everything, but games by definition, there's an element of it that's out of your control. And so I think Kyle kind of hand waves away what happens in games and puts more credence on what happens in practice because he can control it. Like, he wants to see a guy drop back and hit this receiver with this timing and all this stuff. But that's not how it works once you actually play. Stuff does happen. Guys miss blocks. Guys line up wrong. Guys fall down. Balls go through guys' hands. All of that stuff. And I just think that it's a crazy way to evaluate Sam Darnold. He's been in the league for half a decade. He's put nothing but crap on tape for his time in the league. And this preseason, he can't shred backups and 3rd stringers. He can't score points with backups and 3rd stringers. Again, when is it Sam Darnold's fault?
When have we evaluated how a guy looks in preseason based on scoring? I don't remember when this has been like a thing. Like, we got to look at the quarterback for what he did. He was fine yesterday. Rob, he was fine yesterday. He was fine. Sam Darnold was fine yesterday.
If you drop back and throw a 6-yard completion, like
Saturday.
Okay, like you get flowers for that, so you could be the backup quarterback for that. Like, what do you want?
It wasn't. He had a really nice throw on play action on a 7-step to Ronnie Bell over the middle. Is a really good throw. The way.
Oh no, I thought you were talking about the one to Jennings that got called back.
In the third quarter. And if you look at that throw, when you look at all the coaching points, when they coach play action and all of that, when you listen to the clinics and stuff of coaches from this staff talking and all of that, that's what it looks like. So Rob, if you're trying to convince me that, hey, Sam Darnold sucks, Rob, I'm not going to really have that argument with you because I don't have the highest opinion of Sam Darnold. But I do think we're at a point where these two guys are competing for a reason. And if these two guys are competing for a reason and one is clearly better than the other, then we have an issue. We got to talk about what the 49ers coaching staff is doing here.
One is clearly better than the other.
But they're competing.
I think the competition's over. I think the competition is absolutely over. It should be Trey Lance, period. Like, what has Sam Darnold done?
Why isn't it, though? Why isn't it?
Because they don't like Trey
Why
Lance.
hasn't it been that way from the beginning?
Because they're stupid. Because they're stupid.
I kind of understand. Okay, my perspective is I'm just trying to explain how I think the 49ers are thinking, and you think what they're doing is stupid. I get why we're disagreeing here.
I do think what they're doing is stupid, and I think that their evaluations of quarterbacks has always been stupid. They've butchered the position since they've been here. They have butchered it. We're in year 7, and we still don't know if we have a quarterback. But I'm supposed to trust these guys? These are the dudes that I'm supposed to put my faith in? These guys that said we don't want Tom Brady, we want Jimmy Garoppolo? These guys that couldn't get Matt Stafford? These guys that traded up for a spot and not a player? That's where my faith is supposed to go.
Yeah, and so I guess that kind of brings me to my point, which is when I watched the last 2 preseason games, I don't think this marriage is working for either party. Like, I think Trey Lance needs to go somewhere else, and I think the 49ers need to move forward. They've established Brock Purdy as their starting quarterback. They've kind of propped up Brock Purdy as more like a franchise quarterback this offseason, almost. To me, Brock Purdy looked fine yesterday. He looked how Brock Purdy has looked in the past. He operated the offense.
Hold on. Can we talk about that?
Sure.
The evaluation of Brock Purdy. I gave the 49ers a lot of flowers because I think they handled Brock perfectly. Get him in, give him easy plays, and get him the hell out before he gets hurt. He looked good, but they didn't ask him to do anything. He threw 2 short passes in the flat. He threw a screen to Debo. He threw a pass in the flat to Debo. He had one very nice play to Jennings. That was a difficult throw, and he made it look easy. Great play. Other than that, they didn't ask him to do anything.
But he operated the offense, right? Which is supposed to be the thing that we're attracted to Brock Purdy about, right? Like, he did what Brock Purdy was supposed to do. That's why they have him playing. He didn't come in. He didn't do anything crazy. The one play he took a sack, Ty Davis Price.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, my God. Right?
We'll get to TDP.
Right. Okay. So he did it. He did his job, right? He did his job. I'm not trying to tell you Brock Purdy was Patrick Mahomes yesterday. I'm just saying from the standpoint of what he was asked to do, he did exactly that.
I don't even think you could say he looked good. He played and he didn't get hurt.
Okay, fine. I won't say he looked good. He did his job. Can I say that?
Yeah, it's fine. It was absolutely fine.
He did his job. Okay, fine. He did his job. Okay, but they view him as the starting quarterback.
Yes.
Getting to Trey Lance, right? I think what's been emphatically clear the last 2 preseason games is that there's clearly a very talented player and there's a great mindset, right? Like yesterday with how it went. I mean, this is the 3rd overall pick in the draft 2 years ago playing in the 4th quarter of preseason game 2. And preseason game 2 starts with him throwing an interception on a screen that looked bad. He had every opportunity to kind of tap out of that game, but he bounced back. He bounced back and played better after that. Like the interceptable pass against the Raiders, right, that he threw, everybody keeps forgetting. His best throw of that game came right after that. He stood right in the pocket, tall, right, and stood right down the barrel and made a really, really good throw. So there's a lot you can bet on to me with Trey Lance. But there's nothing you're going to get to me anymore with Trey Lance by having him on the bench as your backup quarterback. I think Trey Lance needs a new place that's going to give him an opportunity to play. The 49ers are not in a position to give him that opportunity. They're giving that opportunity to another quarterback. I'm not saying what they should or should do. I'm saying what the facts are. And in that situation, to me, the most conclusive statement that I can kind of make after 2 preseason games is that I think it would be best for both parties if they create a break.
See, I don't think so. Like, you saw those last drives by Trey Lance and said, "Oh, it can't work here."
No, I don't think that. I think this is both ways too. Please include Trey Lance needs to move on from the 49ers as well.
I just think I don't want that, because I think chances are, if Trey Lance is the backup quarterback, he's going to get in there. I mean, history has shown us since 2014, the Niners have only had one season with a full quarterback, with a quarterback playing the full slate. So you're going to need a backup quarterback if history holds with the 49ers. Why would I want Trey Lance off the team? He's going to get the chance to play. He's going to get those reps.
I don't know that. I don't know that he's going to get that. And what if he gets it only by week 8, week 9? How do you know? I think where he goes, he needs to play next year, Rob. He can't have a situation where he doesn't play. They got to make a financial decision on him. I think if you're Trey Lance right now, you want to go to somewhere that's going to give you a chance to play. And if you're the 49ers, the way they seem with Sam Darnold and all of that, they seem to be pretty comfortable, but there's not that much of a difference between Sam Darnold and Trey Lance. And if you feel like there's not that much of a difference between Sam Darnold and Trey Lance, there's a benefit to playing Trey Lance that will yield a lot more than keeping him as the backup. And there's not that much of a benefit to playing Sam Darnold because we kind of know what he is. And so I think at this point, it really makes sense for both people, where Trey Lance, you get him somewhere where he can play. He might become a starting quarterback and a really good one. Who knows? But if the 49ers aren't willing to go through that process of giving him that opportunity, which they aren't, they're going with Brock Purdy. It's not a situation where he's going to all of a sudden become that guy riding the bench behind Brock Purdy. And if your hope is that someone gets hurt and then we can develop him, then you're in a really funky spot with the quarterback.
Well, hold on. I want to be very clear. I'm not hoping anybody gets hurt. I'm saying.
Sorry. I didn't mean to. Yeah, sorry about that.
I know. I just wanted to. Yeah, I understand what you were saying, but I wanted to be crystal clear. Scotty Dippin, love that, says, "I'm with Vish. Trey Lance isn't a backup at this point because he's not steady enough. He needs to be somewhere playing. San Francisco has stunted his growth by making him sit and making him a number 2. It's a continuation of that. I get it from Lance."
Beautiful summation, Scotty.
Scotty Dippin. I get, like, from a purely from Lance's perspective, the best thing would be to get reps, and he's way more likely to get reps somewhere else than he is in San Francisco. But if I'm the 49ers, I'm saying I need all the friggin' quarterbacks I can get, man. And why would I want to get rid of this guy?
But it's that first part, and it goes back to that conversation that I brought up earlier with Darnold and Lance, right? Lance was a little bit of a roller coaster ride. Now, the highs were way higher than Darnold, but there were a few lows in there that you could understand why a coach would go with Darnold, right?
No. Are we forgetting the rest of Sam Darnold's career? You're telling me Sam Darnold doesn't have lows?
They're competing, though. They know the rest of Sam Darnold's the rest of Sam Darnold's career, and they put them in a competition. It's August 21st, and one isn't ahead of the other.
Oh, I think Trey's ahead of Sam.
You think Trey's ahead of Sam? Because last week, everybody said Sam Darnold was the backup quarterback. It was confirmed after what happened against the Raiders. So what happens if next week one of them plays great and one of them plays bad? Then we're going to do this change-up again? That means they're even. They're even.
Well, not necessarily. It just means one could be really bad. Like, you can shift it depending on how bad or how good somebody is.
Depending on how can we say it like this? Because I think my opinion is getting conflated with how I think the team is viewing this. My opinion isn't that they are even, okay? But the team is clearly telling us that they are even at this point. Is that a fair way to say that?
The team's telling us they're in a competition.
Yeah. Which implies what?
You could be in a competition and not be even. You think Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance were even in 2021?
But
I don't.
They kept telling us that wasn't a competition, right? That's all they told us. But what did they tell us? What did they tell us, though?
Yeah, but who gives a crap what they tell you? I care about what actually is the truth. They lie all the time.
Right, but they tried to sell us that wasn't a competition. And I think they did that to remove some pressure from, if Trey Lance just took that job, then he would take it. But if he didn't, they didn't have to be like, well, he lost to Jimmy Garoppolo. So it was an optics.
the idea just because Sam Darnold's failures look prettier than Trey Lance's failures, that doesn't make Sam Darnold more steady. It doesn't make him a safer option. It just doesn't, especially when you look at his
Don't tell that to me. Tell that to Kyle.
Well, that's who I'm talking to here, Vish.
Fine,
I know he watches, even though Kyle Shanahan doesn't like me very much.
Last thing you want to do is start worrying about stats.
I know he watches. I think that's what it is. I think the media, especially the media and coaches, would rather have a pretty 3-and-out than a choppy drive that leads to scoring.
I agree with that.
That's what Trey is at this point. It's a roller coaster with Trey. I get it. And he's going to have some bad plays. But I think the high end is higher, and Sam Darnold has those exact bad plays. Sam Darnold. He hasn't had the bad ones with the 49ers in the preseason yet, but go look at his career. It's full of crap. It is full.
No doubt. I don't want to sound like the Sam Darnold defender here, though I do feel like I'm coming across that way. But I think that all things being equal, I'm with you. I think that especially the last 2 preseason games, Rob, there's been enough positives from Trey Lance to make you want to ride that roller coaster and find out what happens at the end of that ride. Might not end you up on top. It might end you up on the bottom, but it's worth going on the ride, right? But at the same time, the 49ers don't seem willing to go on that ride. And to me, if you're not willing to go on that ride, you're not getting what you can get out of Trey Lance, and Trey Lance is not getting what he can get out of you.
But what I'm saying to the 49ers is you're on that ride either way, and you should know better, because when you look at Sam Darnold's career, that's exactly his problem, right? It's not that Sam Darnold can't deliver high-end plays. That throw that Sam had to Ronnie Bell in the first preseason game, that's a perfect throw. That is a beautiful, beautiful throw. Like Patrick Mahomes couldn't do it better. Like, it's picture perfect. What happened on that drive? Nothing. They didn't score. Why? Because Sam Darnold didn't execute. That's why I keep talking about the results, right? You can't just look at that one throw and be like, oh, great, he should be our backup quarterback. Like, no. What happened on the drive? Nothing happened on the drive. Like, you got to finish the job. That's why I think that, like, I think Sam's performance this preseason is being grossly overstated.
Sure. Can I ask you this, though, from then this perspective? Because I do think it goes into it, right? Like 55 games, we talk about this at other positions, right? Like veteran versus young player. We're going to talk about it. Like, for example, at tight end, Brad Graham was the first one to tweet it out last week. I think he's absolutely right. I think the Niners keep 4 tight ends, and it's because I don't think they keep the 2 rookies, and that's it behind George Kittle. They need a veteran. They want a veteran, right? And so from that standpoint, like, is there not, like, I feel like you're making it sound like there is no possibility where you can understand why a team would make the decision to go forward with Darnold as the backup over Lance as the backup.
I can't.
And I'm saying we are 2 weeks away from that being a real possibility. And so I think that we also have to explain why that could be a possibility. And I do think him having a consistent level of his play, even in this preseason, there's been a little more volatility to Trey Lance's best and Trey Lance's worst versus Sam Darnold's best and Sam Darnold's worst. And him having played 55 games, even if that 55 games was crappy, right? Teams like that experience. They go with experienced players over young players. I mean, the Niners played Janoris Jenkins off the streets last year over Ambry Thomas.
What you're saying, I agree that the 49ers could be thinking that. I agree with you on all of that. I agree that could be their thinking. I'm telling you, that's batshit crazy.
That's what I'm telling you. Don't do it.
Yes, okay. I'm saying it's wrong. Brother Bob, by the way, I just want to get this in. We should ride that roller coaster with our QB2. Darnold blows. I agree with you, Brother Bob. Like, Vish, if
I think they should, if you're ready to ride the roller coaster, start it, because you have to be ready to go with it.
The idea that experience, regardless of whether it's good or bad, is better than inexperience is crazy to me. If I was a surgeon and I killed 8 out of 10 people that I operated on, and you had to have surgery, would you rather go with me, who's killed 80% of my patients, or would you rather go with the guy doing his first surgery? I'd rather go with the guy that hasn't killed 80% of the people he's operated on. Experience by itself is not necessarily good over inexperience. If your experience sucks, what are we talking about here? And Sam Darnold's experience sucks.
I don't think that that's a really fair analogy.
How is it fair?
Killing people while doing surgery, is a extreme here, Rob. It's an
But you
extreme
see
here.
I'm exaggerating to make.
He would have to be Sam Darnold would have had to been Johnny Manziel with the 0 minutes of film if we're going to there with messing up on the surgeries. We're not talking about that. We're talking about a surgeon who's proven he's not a very good surgeon, but he's done 55 surgeries.
No, not hideously bad. Hideously bad. Sam Darnold has been hideously bad in his
but
career.
he's also he's been in the like 2 worst hospitals you can be in. Like the Matt Rule offense situation was terrible. And the Jet situation with Gase was not great too. Now, he wasn't great. He was a bad surgeon in a bad situation, but
look, I don't care if the hospital room you're in is dirty, all right? If you're slicing the wrong leg off, that's on you. Like, no. I just think
the wrong leg off. Whoa.
The experience argument, like if you think, let's say, for a perfect example, like you think Latu and Braden Willis are the best 2 tight ends behind George Kittle, then they should be on the roster.
But it won't be like that.
But who cares if they're rookies? That's what the 49ers did last year, right? They didn't want to have Trey and they didn't want to have Brock backing him up because Trey was basically a rookie and Brock is a rookie, and they didn't want that. So they brought in Jimmy Garoppolo. And you know what? Jimmy Garoppolo was bad early and then prevented them from getting more of Brock Purdy, who ended up being the best quarterback on the roster last year. So why are we going to make this mistake again? Experience by itself should not overrule potential.
Hey, if they do that, I'll agree with you. I think it's the better decision. But what I think they're going to do, Rob, is I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to value experience. Just knowing with this regime, the fact that last year they brought back Deshaun Gibson once Jimmy Ward got hurt so that they would have a veteran safety to pair with Talanoa Hufanga, who was young, right? They signed veteran linebackers when they were going to have Fred Warner play. Even this year, they brought in Javon Hargrave because they're going with the young guy and Drake Jackson. When they go with the young guy, they surround him with veterans, and they've gone with veterans over young guys when they have come to making this decision in the past, whether it's keeping a Dante Johnson over a young corner or something like that. And so that's why I am where I am, Stats. It's not because I think, hey, this Sam Darnold guy is this fantastic quarterback that everybody's missed out on till now. No. I don't think that at all. But I've seen a line of pattern of thinking from this same group of people, and it makes me think that they will do that once again.
I don't think they brought in Javon Hargrave because he has experience.
Yeah, that was a terrible example. I was hoping you would not point it out. Yeah. I didn't want to say, holy cow, that was a terrible example because I didn't want to kill my confidence before I said the last part of the statement. But yeah, that was terrible.
Bad. Did not mean to blow up your spot there, Vish. Fire the Great says the doctor analogy is a fair one. LOL. FYI, I wouldn't want either. Yeah, I get that. Those are not the 2 best. You prefer an experienced surgeon who has a track record of saving people's lives. I get that. But I agree with you that I think most coaches would think the way the 49ers are probably thinking, that experience over rookies. But what is the difference, Vish? Let's say, Braden Willis is the backup tight end and he screws a play up because he makes a quote unquote rookie mistake, or Charlie Warner screws a play up because he's just not good. The play is still screwed up either way.
It's a great question, right? And I think that's where asking coaches about something like that would be interesting. But for whatever reason, they seem to prefer the veteran. They seem to always prefer consistency over the volatility. To me, Rob, I don't want to make it sound like just because we've been going Trey Lance, Sam Darnold kind of with this debate, somehow omitting Brock Purdy as well, who's the starting quarterback of this team. But whatever, we're debating these 2 backups. I don't want to make it sound like I was not positive. I thought Trey Lance, really, especially down the stretch, especially to bounce back from what he went through at the beginning of the game and all of that. I thought there was a lot of positives here with Trey Lance. Josh Norman, there's another example.
Yeah, and how did Josh Norman do with the 49ers?
But they game after game, they started him over Deommodore Lenoir and Ambry Thomas.
And guess what? Is Deommodore Lenoir right now better than Josh Norman was back then?
Yeah, but yes. I think if you ask Kyle Shanahan, he would say that at that point he had to start Josh Norman.
No, why?
Deommodore Lenoir wasn't ready then. That's what he would say.
Here's the problem with Kyle. He wants to try and avoid all the growing pains. He thinks he can avoid all of them, and these guys are just magically going to not have them. Josh Norman got
Nick
that.
Bosa didn't have growing pains.
Yeah, he's a generational player. Okay, not everybody on this roster is Nick Bosa, but like Josh Norman is the experienced player that he is, that they seem to like, because he got in there and freaking played and got the experience. Like, I do not agree. I think that you're right in how they're thinking. I don't agree with their thinking.
They did Hufanga Tart, another example, right? They said last year that they felt like Hufanga was good enough to start as a rookie, but they didn't do it because they stuck with veteran and Tart.
Yeah, and how'd that work out?
I don't think
Tart's veteranness help him catch that interception in the friggin' NFC Championship game.
No, but that veteranness did allow him to take a really, really good angle and run down Aaron Jones. Otherwise, one touchdown would have won that game.
Yeah, because another safety would never have figured out I have to run and tackle this ball carrier.
We saw Hufanga. Is Trent Sherfield a 4-3? Is he the fastest guy in the Dolphins offense? The angle he took on Trent Sherfield not being able to run him down. Like, we've seen them not be able to. We didn't see them run down people last year.
Does Hufanga hold on to that ball?
Probably.
A snake could have held on to that ball. I think Jaquan Tartt's the only person
doesn't deserve that.
Ball. Brother Bob says, Vish, you're smoking some really good stuff. Darnold is QB3 at best. If we make him QB2, that just further shows. Sorry, Rob. Kyle isn't a Super Bowl winning head coach.
So I don't get this. What am I smoking? I'm smoking something because I'm saying that a team who's put two quarterbacks in a competition and it's August 21st, the season starts in 2 weeks, and those two guys are still in a competition, that there's an opportunity that the other guy might win the competition. Right. Like, this is, in my opinion, this is what's happening right now.
Yeah, Vish is explaining what the team is possibly thinking. He's not explaining his personal view on the situation. Is that accurate?
Because I've already explained that for the last 5 months. I said I wouldn't trade Trey Lance. I would not do this and not do that. We're at this point right now.
I agree. I want to give Lance so much credit. I've rewatched the game multiple times. I've listened to JT O'Sullivan's breakdown. I think JT was a little hyperbolic with some of Lance's misses, like saying that, well, an incompletion over the middle is a throw that, gets you kicked out of the league. It's like, actually, dude, it's just one incompletion. Calm the hell down. Like, it's an incomplete pass.
Sometimes I wonder if he reacts to it without knowing what comes after the game. And I kind of like that he does that because it doesn't let his opinion get influenced on what's happening. But isn't it kind of weird for 2 minutes later for him to go, this gets him out of the league, and then 2 minutes later he goes, yeah, this is why they drafted him. This is the kind of stuff that makes you believe in Trey Lance. Like, because people are looking for that conclusive statement already from JT. They don't care about JT's breakdown as much as they want to weaponize JT's breakdown to pander to whatever narrative they want it to fit. And so people don't care that, hey, okay, this is one incompletion. This isn't good, but hey, look at this next one. No, the good one, we're going to put him in the Hall of Fame, and then the bad one, we're going to put him out. And I think that's where JT being a little hyperbolic doesn't help that, because it does pander then to the people who are looking for that.
Yeah, I think JT evaluates each rep by itself. But of course, when you're evaluating a player, you have to evaluate everything. Benjamin Bear says, any idea on where Michelle's head is at following Trey's Saturday game? Because she was all out on Trey after the first preseason game.
Yeah, I did see that. I watched the episode specifically. By the way, shout out to your promo. I watched it specifically for your promo because you told me you guys argued. I went back and watched the promo, and she was going after you.
Yeah, she was. We love Michelle. I like it, and everybody goes after me. We should. Like, there's nothing you could say to me on this show that's going to get me mad at you or make me lose respect for you or anything. So, yeah, if I can't defend my opinion, then what the hell? I shouldn't have it, basically. I want to get to this, Vish, because this has been a thing. D'Angelo Evans, ESPN clown Lance after the game, shaking my head. People have talked about this, and I think I have a pretty good perspective on it as somebody that worked at ESPN behind the scenes and now works hosting for ESPN now. I just want to say, I don't know for sure what happened, and maybe I'm biased and I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, but I sincerely doubt that ESPN was like, screw Trey Lance. We're going to put this package out. We're going to make this kid look bad. Ha ha, he sucks. We don't care about anything else. We don't like Trey Lance. I'm willing to bet what happened is that whoever was, I don't know who was hosting the Sports Center, whoever was doing that thing, had not watched the game because it's like, the fourth quarter of a preseason game. Plus they're on the air. They're doing a show. I
They're
bet
doing
you
the other preseason games highlights.
right. Like, I bet you that whoever was responsible for watching the game didn't watch it that closely, saw the Lance interception, handed him a recap of the game. They cut that highlight and he was just going off of whatever he was told to say. And TV, like, that is something like when you're doing that kind of a show, that's not like an analysis show, but just like a news show with highlights. Like, you don't necessarily have time to watch every game. I'm willing to bet that is far closer to what actually happened than ESPN just saying, screw Trey Lance, we're going to make him look bad. We know he was really good at the end of the game, but we're going to hide that from people to make him look bad.
Yeah, I agree. I think it just kind of sucked because it felt like
it did suck. Yeah,
it felt like okay. Again, like I think sometimes the human element of this, again, we dehumanize it a lot because athletes make a lot of money, so therefore they can't be sensitive to the same kind of things as us. And it's like we're talking about a guy who at 23 years old, 2 years ago, he was the third pick in the draft. And at 23 years old, 2 years later, he's playing in the fourth quarter of preseason game 2. Okay. Nobody imagines that that's where their career is going to end up. And the guy was battling, right? He didn't look like a guy that had given up, that had given in, that looked defeated. He looked like a guy that was still battling. In fact, I would argue, Rob, this was the most deliberate, or the least deliberate, I've ever seen him look when he played. It seemed like he reached a point after missing that screen and all of that where he was just going to go out and let it rip. And yes, he did let it rip. And he made some really nice throws in there as well. And so it felt a little bit piling on because we had a moment, especially for us as fans, that felt a little more precious because we've seen a guy who's kind of gone through the ringer. Regardless of how you feel about him as a football player, the injuries he's gone through the ringer. And we see him still fighting despite going through that and overcoming that and having whatever the result was, whatever that preseason game was, it was a positive for us to see as fans. It was nice to see Trey Lance have that moment. Yeah, it sucked to then turn on ESPN because, of course, you want to turn on ESPN and give that, even if it's for that preseason game, just give Trey Lance a little bit of props for us seeing that moment. And they were like, oh, no, he sucked. It's afterthought, right? Yeah.
And they even, like, especially when they added, oh, I know the numbers look good, but if you watch it, he was worse than it. It's like, no, he wasn't. He's probably better than numbers look. JJAA Rod says 5 years. Sam, 5 years in the NFL equals Trey 4 NFL games. Math just ain't mathing. I think the other thing too with Trey, like the idea that he was struggling before the screen pass is not true. He actually hit his first 3 passes before he threw the interception. He came in, he hit Tay Martin for 9.
Right, then on that nice off schedule where Tay Martin made a hell of a catch. I can't believe he caught that and didn't catch the other one on the holding.
Tay made a hell of a catch, and Lance did a hell of a job escaping pressure and rolling out to his right and keeping it alive. Then he came in, he hit Ronnie Bell for 5 yards. There was an illegal formation, which you could potentially blame Lance for because he's got to get everybody lined up the right way. Then he hit McNichols for 8 yards. And then they had a couple of runs, and then he threw the interception. But, like, he wasn't struggling. The interception was the only bad pass he threw on the drive. And then he came in, of course, after that interception. We all know what happened.
After the interception, it was a little wonky, right? He had a 2-play sequence that was wonky. The one JT was, like, on the Hank route, right? Again, we thought he was a little hard. But then the one after that with the phantom pressure where you just read it out to over, and the over is there. He's looking at it, right? He's there. He's ready to for whatever reason, he didn't cut the ball loose in that moment. And then right after that, things just go for another change. And he's starting to just let it loose. And he comes back with like the throw to Latu that I talked about. To me, like, it wasn't caught because Latu just doesn't track the ball until the ball is literally 2 feet in front of him. He's like, oh, it's right here. But like the throw is ridiculous for him to get it out where he gets it with the hit he takes. It's an outstanding throw. And yeah, I wish there was another guy on the receiving end of that because I think a better receiver probably catches that ball. No offense to Latu.
Latu himself said he should have caught it.
Right, you did say that, but I didn't find that quote, so I didn't want to say it. Just
I didn't find the quote. Some other 49ers beat writer, I think, tweeted out or had it in an article somewhere that Latu himself should have caught the pass.
Okay. So how? Okay, I feel so validated now. Okay, that's what I thought too. I thought so too. Yeah, I thought Latu should have caught that pass.
And if he did, then what are we saying about Trey Lance? Holy hell, Trey Lance. It's unbelievable. If you're watching the stream, you can see the play. The pass blocking by the running backs in this game was absolutely terrible.
So can we touch on those topics?
Yes.
Braden Willis also had a tough game blocking.
They're avoiding pass rushers on their way, like either out of the backfield.
They also cut.
What's that?
Ty Davis Price almost, I think there's a play later that he actually has a nice pass protection rep, but he's been cutting a lot of rushers when they come by. And it's interesting because he dives low pretty early. And that's what happened on the play that he missed with Brock Purdy, where it's almost like he shut his eyes and dove. And he just whiffed in air because he dove so early.
Yeah, it's really, really bad. And like Ty Davis Price looks good running the ball, but what do we always say, right? No block, no rock. That applies.
Same thing with Mason. Mason got the screen up from Trey Lance last week as well. And those are the two things that we talked about. Why is we talked about this last year. Why is CMC getting so many snaps? Why are we not seeing less of Mason? Because Mason isn't in their trust circle in terms of pass protection or receiving at that point. Well, I think it's going to be the same. And that's why when we talk about Elijah Mitchell trade, my perspective on trading Elijah Mitchell has very much changed after watching 2 preseason games, because I don't know that they would they would really trust Mason or Ty Davis Price fully in the situation that Christian McCaffrey gets hurt. Like, I don't think they would feel as comfortable running their offense. So here's a place where experience does mean something, Rob.
Not if
I can trust the veteran to do his job. I can trust him to know the little things because he's played. He knows the little details.
No, but that's good experience. What if the guy has 55 games of experience being a bad pass blocker? That's what I'm arguing. That's why it's not the same. But, like Ty Davis Price, you can't run through a free rusher and run to the side, like avoid contact with him on your way out of the backfield. Like, no, you got to chip him. You got to, like, what are we doing
here? They had the same issue where in the first play of the game that Trey Lance takes a sack versus the Raiders, Mason, this was first pointed out by JT O'Sullivan and then sent to me by Rich McGrid, but I didn't actually notice it until JT O'Sullivan pointed it out. But Mason executes the wrong pass protection on it. He has a 7-man protection release on it, and that's why Lance, the check down isn't – if you go back and watch the play, sure, Lance takes the sack. Maybe you want to put the sack on him. Kyle didn't put the sack on him. I think JT did. But either way, the check down is not an option really for him on that play because of that. And so these are the little things that when we talk about it for the quarterbacks. Like, I think Elijah Mitchell makes this team for sure. Like, I don't think they trade him at this point just because of that. They got rid of Laybourne already. Same thing with the tight ends, Rob. Like, Braden Willis blocking, that's a big work in progress. Cam Latu, big work in progress across the board. Fumagalli, Naperville, Illinois' own. Troy Fumagalli, same area as Vish Kumaran. He might make the team. Ross Dwelly, there's something like, I think that's there. And then the cornerback position. Can we do our victory lap now, Rob?
On the cornerbacks?
Did someone say that Diamador Lenore was the best nickel on this team and that the 3 corners that should be starting are Mooney Ward, Womack, and Diamador Lenore? And I said that I wouldn't watch Isaiah Oliver just because you guys give me PFF's stats of Isaiah Oliver in the run game the last year. But I know Isaiah Oliver from the past, and I know what he is, and it looks like he's kind of what he is. Though I was really disappointed in Miles Hartfield. He's not going to make this team either. But
the 2 guys, by the way, I think you're right. Somebody said that. Some Indian guy said that. I can't.
Yeah,
maybe it was
Rohan. Maybe it was Akash.
No, good job by you. Brother Bob says, Vish, this is where you're smoking. Bad experience from a vet is bad. I think we've plowed that ground, but I appreciate the super chat, Brother Bob. Thank you. What does it say that, like, Steve Wilkes said Isaiah Oliver was the best nickel on the market, and he is, I mean, he's if he's not in the doghouse, he's literally doghouse adjacent. And Miles Hartsfield was also another signing, and you got to figure, like, Wilkes had a lot of input. He's the specialty, secondary coach, the D coordinator, and both those guys look like they can't even make the team.
Yeah, I thought Hartsfield would be a little bit better. Okay, I will say this with Hartsfield. He looks a little rounder in his lower body than I would expect for a guy. I don't mean to body shame him or say anything like that, but he does look a little bit like a little bit bigger than he looked last year, at least when I saw him. And Hartsfield's biggest value is his special teams, With Wilkes and Oliver, I'll give him the excuse of if you look at his defense in the past, Oliver does make sense in terms of what he could covet as a nickel, but he's not running his defense, is he?
No, he's not.
Right. And that's where, okay.
I was stunned when Shanahan, they were like, why did you play Isaiah Oliver when none of the other starters played? And Shanahan just said, because he's not a guaranteed starter.
Right, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
He flat out laid it out there.
What do you think happens, though? Because, okay, let's say I'm right, and let's say it becomes a situation where Diamador and Lenoir is the best nickelback on this team. You think they do what they we thought they would do with Emmanuel Mosley, but they didn't end up doing. They just made Lenoir the nickel. In between Jimmy Ward and replacing K'Wan Williams, of course, last year when Jimmy Ward was hurt and Gibson became the safety. Do you think they'll do that? Or do you think Lenoir will play outside on first down or when they're not in nickel defense and then shift inside and have a Womack or an Ambry Thomas or whoever wins that job now play outside?
I think they're going to put Womack on the outside when they're in nickel and move Diamador Lenoir into the slot. And they'll just do it kind of like they did with, what was it, Carlos Rogers back in the day? Is that
but again, that was a different kind of nickel player, right?
I also think too, what you'll see, they may put Tig as the nickel and you use an extra safety and do some things like that. Not really for coverage, but more to blitz.
They did that yesterday. I haven't really watched the defensive snaps, to be honest, because I knew we would just be talking quarterback. So I was trying to watch that as much as I could. But I did see a snap yesterday at the beginning of the game where they did do that. I thought he made a mistake, if I remember correctly, where he didn't carry the seam. But I have to go back and watch that. I don't know.
Pete Pong 102 watching on my Twitch page. Shout out to everybody on Twitch that watches. Levin was making fun of my paltry follower account on Twitch. Follow me on fire. Is Lenoir that much better than everyone else at nickel? He might be.
At tackling in terms of playing the run, yeah. Like, for example, the play Hartsfield missed against that player, Lenoir makes that tackle in the hole. He closes space much quicker. He's not as tentative as Hartsfield was, and he commits. Like, to me, Lenoir only had one game where he did not play that well against the run, and that was against Josh Jacobs, who was very difficult for anybody to get down. I mean, Nick Bosa said Josh Jacobs was the best football player that they played last year, coming from Nick Bosa. So that was the only game Lenoir had issues, and it's because Jacobs is so quick in such a tight space. Lenoir had issues getting very, very close. But otherwise, Lenoir in the run game is definitely a lot better. And I think they look at Womack as an outside player, really, Rob. I don't think they look at Womack as an inside player anymore. And Quantrez Knight is pretty good, so maybe Oliver gets cut. But they don't save money, really, cutting Oliver. His contract isn't one of those.
Crazy, man. It is crazy that that's potentially where we are.
They did it before, though. They did it after giving Jeremy Curley money in 2017, and then Trent Taylor outplayed him, and they cut Jeremy Curley outright, and they kept Trent Taylor. So perhaps they can do the same thing here with Isaiah Oliver.
Did you see the comment from Joe Banner, who said that, he worked with Kyle in Atlanta, and what he said was Kyle's a very emotional guy, and when he gets out on a player, like, he's out. That's it. He decides pretty quick. Sometimes he decides with emotion, and when he gets out on a player, it's very difficult for that player to get back out of the doghouse. And I think that has largely held up in San Francisco. What I wanted to ask you is, we're talking more than 7 years ago where Kyle was in Atlanta. Do you think he's matured? Do you think he's mellowed a little bit? Or do you largely think that Shanahan still is overly emotional and still has a really hard time letting guys back into the regular house when they're in the doghouse?
I mean, we look at some of the 49ers' biggest draft misses, right? And they've just been a case of coach fell too in love with the player. They traded up for him, and it wasn't the right pick, right? Joe Williams, CJ Beathard, right? He says, well, because I know the CJ one bothers him that people criticize him for it, because I heard him make a comment like, everybody gives me, on some podcasts, everybody gives me crap for CJ. And that was basically a 4th round pick. And it was in an article. He compared it to Jake Moody, saying it was basically a 4th-round pick. No, we don't give you crap because CJ Beathard was drafted in the end of the 3rd round. We give you crap because you told Peter King on the day of the draft that he's the one guy that you thought in that draft that had a chance. That's why we give you crap about CJ Beathard, okay? Because you told Peter King that he was the one guy that had a chance. But more importantly, we've seen him do that, right? The trade up for Pettis, Joe Williams, Brandon Ayuk, all of that. And we've seen really only Brandon Ayuk go from where they were out on him to kind of getting back in on him. And with Ayuk, it was a case of like him and Shanahan needed to create a direct line of communication, and Ayuk reached out and created that line, and they were able to rectify that. But I do think that's his personality. But Rob, I don't know that that's not the personality of every NFL coach, right? Like, has that not been Bill Belichick's MO for the last 22 years? Like, once you're out, you're out. He's done with you. You're gone. Like, they cut Jonas Gray the week after Jonas Gray ran for 200 yards. So, like, yeah, that's their MO. So, like, I think Banner's perspective is a front office perspective, because front office people have a little more guarantee in terms of their long-term of their jobs. So they're more interested in the projection of players and what players can be. Coaches live on a week-to-week, day-to-day basis in terms of their job security. So they're much more interested on who a player is than what he can be, which is, I mean, this kind of also in some ways parallels with our earlier Sam Darnold, Trey Lance conversation of why this competition's existing and why, you know, the Niners might have this perspective that he could be the backup. But yeah, I do think like what Banner says is just a head coach and a coach's perspective on the game versus his perspective as a longtime front office executive person.
It's a good point. Lee Ving says Doghouse to Cabo Club. That's a big leap. I imagine, yeah.
Has he made it yet to the Cabo Club?
No. If it's hard to go from the doghouse to the regular house, it's even harder to go from the doghouse to the Cabo Club. Like, that is
Debo kind of did it too, though, right? Because people forget how critical Shanahan and John Lynch were in their end of season presser in 2020 of Deebo Samuel.
Yes, and we talked.
Yeah,
Kyle Posey and I talked with Benjamin Albright, who at that point said
they won't pay him.
Yeah, he said, like, don't think that you know, that's a sure thing that Deebo comes back. He was telling me that, or telling us, I should say, that they were kind of out on him, and then 2021 happened, and he had one of the most historic football seasons we've ever seen. Luckily for us, this appears to be a good Deebo year by all reports. I don't know. He certainly looked good.
He looks good, yeah.
In the game against the Broncos, catching.
Although Greg Papa, didn't it feel like a little extra that he went out of his way to call him skinny Deebo? Like, he looks 5 pounds different from last year to me.
Let me just tell you, Greg Papa, he's on my last nerve with. I can't take it. He 3 times during the game, he described Lance's passes as fluttering ball while they are still in the air before the play is even over. Fluttering ball, as if like just because you throw with touch that the ball is fluttering. Like, does he not know what that means?
Can I say this? I feel like Greg Papa and Tim Ryan have been going out of their way trying to sell Sam Darnold to the fan base the last 2 games. Can we say that?
Every throw with Darnold. Look at the timing, even when it's incomplete. Look at the
interception he threw when he kind of threw it a little too fast. It came on Ronnie Bell a little too quick. Like, I think if a different quarterback had thrown that, we would have the conversation differently. But either way, it was an interception, right? It's a 7-yard slant. It's a nice throw. Tim Ryan was like, that was an unbelievable throw.
Right. Like, what are we talking about? They're the worst. Tim Ryan stinks. I know Larry Krueger like quote tweeted my opinion because I said I think that Tim Ryan is not very good. It doesn't mean Tim Ryan doesn't work hard at the job, but he's still not very good at it. Okay. Like, I've watched football for a long time. I know what a good analyst is and a bad analyst. I worked at ESPN for 7 years. I know what a good analyst is and a bad analyst. And guess what? Tim Ryan ain't it. I don't care how many practices he goes to. He's not it. And he's biased, like you said.
I think he really knows his football. I think he's really passionate. But those 2 things don't mean that you can talk about it on a broadcast.
Yes. Joe Montana.
And like when you're like, yeah, Sam Darnold, he showed that athleticism back in USC. And I was like, wait. Did I forget that Sam Darnold played for Clay Helton at USC? Did Sam Darnold play for Pete Carroll? Did he play with John David Booty and Mark Sanchez and Matt Leinart and Carson Palmer?
Emiliano says Greg Papa and Tim Ryan are the worst. Literally cannot listen to them. Straight up company men. Like, we don't have eyes on what's happening on the field. And look, I get it. Anybody that works for the team they're not going to crush the team because the team's not going to pay them to do that. That's just how it works. But there is a difference between not being able to constantly crush the team and going in the complete opposite direction and having agendas for people and slurping people constantly when we can see the games on the field. Like if they were radio announcers, I mean, I guess they are. So most of the time. So I guess it's a little easier. Like at least on the radio, like we can't see it if you're listening to that broadcast. But when the game's on TV, like, dude, I can watch these passes. These are not fluttering passes from Trey Lance. He's taking something off of the ball because it doesn't need to be a rocket.
Yeah, by the way, from like just the pure that standpoint too, just because can we touch on it? Just because you and I didn't see practice and all of that, and we did do the talking points with all the things he had allegedly improved with Jeff Christensen and all of that. Like in terms of just looking at Trey Lance individually, let's forget about the other two quarterbacks in for a second. Like to me, there's been two dramatic improvements here so far through 2 games versus where he was the last couple of years. One, while he's not always more decisive, I think overall he is more decisive than he was the last couple of times I'd been able to see him. And then 2, he is definitely throwing the ball a lot more accurately and a lot more catchable than he did the last 2 times. I think that counts for something. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but like every throw now, it really feels like he's able to throw it where he wants to, whereas sometimes it felt like he would just lose control of it randomly. Like even the throws he's missing are on target, right? Like maybe it's to coverage, whatever, but it's like on target. It's an accurate throw. He's throwing it to where he wants to. So yeah.
Yes. I want to respond to that in a second, but I want to give Javi Vega a shout out who says, bring back Ted Robinson. Him with Whitner would be dope. Ted Robinson is awesome. Go back and listen to those calls with Alex Smith against the Saints. Can you feel Candlestick? That one, the Navarro Bowman pick at the stick where he says Bowman catches it and returns it 7 miles for a touchdown. Ted Robinson was, what's that?
Tremaine Brock with the PBU.
Yeah, with the pass breakup. Like Ted Robinson was awesome. I absolutely love that. Brother Bob, thanks for the super chat. I'm not going to put that comment on the screen because I feel like it's kind of inappropriate, but I appreciate the donation. I'm not going to say it. But going back to the Lance thing, you're right that he's like his throwing is better.
Oh, I see it. Okay. That's not appropriate.
The thing with Lance that I think like people are going too nuts about because everyone was like, oh, the timing after the Raider game. But just because you drop back and you don't immediately throw when your back foot hits the top of your drop, that doesn't mean that you're hesitating or that you're not seeing the field. Sometimes nobody's open. Like people act like, oh, every time he does that he missed a read. And that's not the case. Like sometimes you have to go through your reads. You're hesitating because no one's open and you're not just going to throw the ball to say that you threw it and you were decisive.
Yeah, he had a really nice on that drive that he hit Willie Snead twice. One on the blitz on the slant where he was hot to Willie Snead, and then the other one that was a really tight window throw. He had a 3rd and 8 conversion to Latu, where Latu's kind of leaked out of the backside, and he gets all the way to the backside and leaks out, and the pocket's collapsing around him, and he does a real good job staying tall and getting the ball up and over the line to Latu. Now Latu's wide open. Ball's a little bit low, and he catches it for a 10-yard gain. But that was like a really quality play from the quarterback, in my opinion, at least, on 3rd down. And then, by the way, we got to also touch on Brock, right? Like, we only did that little segue and cameo on Brock where we debated where I said I thought he looked good, and you didn't like that I said he looked good. And then we agreed that he did what he was supposed to.
Yeah.
And we left it at that. But
I mean, we can talk about it.
Starting quarterback of the 49ers?
Yeah, I mean, they got his feet wet. I have said that they have handled Brock perfectly, and I kill the 49ers for how they handled Lance, and I want to be accurate and fair. They have handled Brock perfectly. They didn't ask him to do straight up 7-step drops, go through 6 reads and stand in the pocket. Like they did exactly what they needed to with him. Give him some action so he's not going into week 1 cold. Make the plays nice and easy and get him the hell out before he gets hurt. And he took a sack, and I was a little nervous when I saw him running around back there. But no, I'm just saying people are acting like there are 0 questions now about Brock Purdy because he threw a couple short passes against the Broncos, and I'm just not there yet. That's all.
Yeah, I agree. Brock is also a work in progress. I will say the one positive that I thought with Brock that I didn't see anybody really mention was I thought he looked pretty confident, like one to get hit, like he didn't go down with the sack around people around him. And he looked pretty confident, like in general, moving around as if There was no like, hey, scar tissue from when I got hit. And you and I felt like did bring it up last week with Trey Lance. We talked about it with Garoppolo. I guess I really like belaboring the point that he had a 0.0 passer rating against Denver in that preseason game. But he was really terrible in that game. And so from Brock Purdy's standpoint, I agree with you. I think they've done an excellent job handling Brock Purdy this entire offseason. And I thought that was, massive positive. This is the starting quarterback of the 49ers. 2 weeks from now, he's going to have to go to Pittsburgh to what was formerly Heinz Field. I don't like the new name, so I'm not going to say it. And I also, frankly, don't really know it.
Sure, I think, I don't know, whatever.
Something like that, yeah. And so I thought that it was really positive how confident he looked with everything in terms of making decisions quickly, in terms of doing what he was supposed to. And in fact, even that one play where he ran, where people thought he could have thrown it to Jennings, the way his body was positioned, I didn't think he was ever in a spot where he could really throw it to Jennings. He kind of got past Jennings, and he would almost have to flip his hips and throw it all the way back. And so I thought running was actually a fine decision just because of where he was positioned as he got outside of the pocket. And so, I thought he looked confident and did what he was supposed to do.
The play to Jennings that you're talking about too, I think that people underestimate. Like, Jennings is crossing the field and he runs square into a defensive back, and because he's Juwan Jennings.
So was that an intent? You didn't think that was an intentional block?
I don't know, but I think once he made contact with the defensive back, I think that's when Brock decided, I'm just going to run it. And the great thing about Juwan Jennings is that he just trucked the guy and continued running, and like he remained open. But I think Brock saw that and was like, you know what? He's not going to be an option for me, so I'm just going to run it.
I'll fully admit something to you. I've only watched Brock Purdy snaps on the All-22. I didn't watch it live. Unfortunately, on Saturday, I was on a boat earlier in the day watching the Air and Water show in Chicago. So let's just say I was a little bit tired, had maybe a couple too many adult beverages, and I fell asleep and woke up only after Brock Purdy was done playing in that game. So I didn't see it live. So I wasn't sure if Jennings, because I couldn't tell really from the angle on the All-22 if Jennings just, Brock is running, let me just plow this guy. And Jennings destroyed him. Or if Jennings killed him. Or if Jennings was just running inadvertently and just trucked the guy because he didn't see him.
He may have meant it as a block, but then the guy just fell down. And so Jennings was like, well, I guess I can continue running now. I'm not sure. Brother Bob is back. Thanks for the super chat. Rob, I earned 2 bones, and you said Slurpee first. Yeah, I said slurp, but that's not what you put up on the screen.
Said slurp. Okay, I know. I remember now. Yeah.
I appreciate the donation, but just because you spend money doesn't mean I have to put it up. If I think it's inappropriate, like if you were to say some horrible things just because you spent money, I'm not going to throw it up on the screen. But I do appreciate all of the super chats. I want to make that known.
Nick Bosa before we go ahead.
One more thing on Brock, and then we can hit on Bosa. Like you said, Brock looked decisive. Like, of course he looked decisive. All the reads it was super easy. One was a screen. One was a throw to Ayuk. Did you see the cushion that Ayuk had on that slant pass?
Rob. I'm comparing it to the other 49ers starting quarterback when I saw him in preseason.
And I don't mean to belittle Brock. I'm not trying to do that. All I'm saying was it was super easy. Like
No. I agree. They didn't ask him to do anything that was extraordinary. My comment to you on the phone is Brock kind of looked like a veteran backup in preseason. Like, okay, let me complete this. I don't mean that as an insult. I just mean that's how the visual kind of looked. Like it was just very smooth, efficient, and that's great. But I do think from the perspective of we saw them kind of do this for Jimmy G in 18 and 19 when they stuck him in preseason, and it never looked this smooth even for a drive. Like the Dallas preseason game in 19 with Jet McKinnon and all of that no, they didn't play that one. Or Jet McKinnon did. I think he got hurt. Or they had one drive. Either way, Jimmy G did not look very good in preseason outside of the Texans game in 18, right? And even in that, he threw a pick. And so from that standpoint, I got to give Brock Purdy some credit there.
I put up the picture if you're watching on the stream.
I did.
This is the play where IU catches the slant pass. The corner is 10 yards off of him, maybe more. And again, Brock saw it, recognized it, threw it, was right on the money. Ayuk got yards after catch. But like, all I'm saying is we can't judge anything off of what we saw.
Debo and Ayuk, just from like, hey, they're just going out there moving around and like they both look good. They both look explosive. Like, hey, I mean, you and George Kittle have a running bet. Well, this could be the year that he isn't option 1, 2, or 3 on this offense. And that's Christian McCaffrey, Debo Samuel, and Brandon Ayuk.
Oh, yeah. The idea that George Kittle is going to put up massive yards this year, I think is crazy. His value is going to come in the red zone and scoring touchdowns. That's what they need from George Kittle. They need freaking touchdowns. It's exactly what they got from him last year when Brock came in. Yardage-wise, he had a couple of good games. I think against Washington, he had a very good game. But a lot of his games were like
that big where he stole the touchdown from Ray McCloud. Yeah, it was a 50-yard.
But a lot of Kittle's games were like 3 catches, 30 yards, but he'd have a touchdown or 2 touchdowns. Like that's and he can be an incredible asset just in that role. But I just think that there are so many other options on this team that I don't think he's going to be the one that puts up. I think
that's what it is. I think he's still capable too. Like if they had a game where they needed him to give him 14 for $180, like I think I was going to call him Rob Kittle. I think George Kittle still absolutely has that. But I do think we're trending to a point where this offense, I think CMC and Debo are definitely going to be the 2 most featured players in terms of let's try to get them the ball in this offense. And then I think Ayuk has just become too good to be ignored for X amount of times in a game. And I think their pass protection, like I saw a couple of things in the chat about Colton McKivitz being good. I don't know how you were able to form an opinion, good or bad, about Colton McKivitz yesterday. There weren't really any true pass protection opportunities for us to find out, hey, Colton McKivitz can really, really hold up on the right side, but he was fine. Like, I guess like Brock Purdy, he did his job yesterday, which good for him. But I think that with that, we're going to probably see Kittle maybe in the block a little bit more, even in the pass game.
Yeah, YouTube channel member Benjamin Bear pointed that out. David Lombardi tweeted, Colton McKivitz delivered a clean sheet, no pressures allowed, over 9 pass blocking reps in his first start. To which Rich Madrid quote tweeted that and said, here are McKivitz's pass rushing reps. 1, play action away from him. 2, didn't block anyone. 3, screen pass, didn't block anyone. 4, play action away from him. 5, pass block for 2 seconds, clean. 6, play action away from him. 7, pass block edge, best rep. 8, didn't block anyone because the defensive end dropped into zone. And 9, stunt pass off, no rush from 99. This is why you need to follow more than one person, right?
I didn't know that he had 2 pass reps, to be honest. I only remember the second one. I forgot the first one.
Follow David Lombardi. He has some information that he tweets out that's very useful to know. But also follow Rich Madrid, because you need more context with a lot of this stuff. You need the full picture when it comes to the 49ers. Do not just follow their press corps, please.
Yeah, and by the way, all that perspective is good. I don't know why people just want information on how they view the game. Like for me, I like following people that deliver challenging points of view, which allows, me to either strengthen my perspective or grow my perspective because I might not have been looking at something the right way. And I think that too many people are just looking for an echo chamber of people to deliver that, hey, how you're looking at this is right. And look, I'm not here to judge that, but I don't understand why people enjoy that, because I feel like having an opinion is only interesting is if you can prove that your opinion, or you can debate your opinion. Otherwise, like, what's the point of me having an opinion if we just agree?
Right. If you can't defend it, you shouldn't have it. But also, people seek affirmation over information. They want to be told that they are right. It feels good. Our brains like to feel like we are right. We don't like it when we're wrong. It's hard for our brains to accept it. It's part of the reason why people think Sam Darnold still has a chance, because we don't want to be wrong. It's human nature. Nobody likes it. Even when you're presented with facts, they've done studies on this. They've told people things that this is true. And then they find out, you know what? Actually, it's not true. We made it up. And the facts do not convince people otherwise. The facts actually make them hold on to their incorrect opinion harder and stronger. Because
this happened to me this morning, dude. Somebody tweeted out all of Trey Sermon's carries and catches this morning.
What?
And I immediately go to Twitter. I'm like, oh crap. All right, fine. And I haven't opened Twitter in a little while. So I open it, go through the notifications. Now, I didn't have the 20 plus the same way you did, but you have like 20,000, 30,000 followers on Twitter. You're a big deal. I don't got that. Okay. Okay. But I had some notifications to go through. And so I went through my notifications and I saw somebody tweeted about Trey Sermon. And I was already ready to be like, okay, yes, this is it. He finally showed something yesterday. And he did, by the way. Trey Sermon looked pretty good, but he also had a really ugly fumble in that game. So I don't even know if he's going to make the Philadelphia Eagles this year. But guess what? Exactly what you said. For me, I cannot let it go that, hey, there's that Trey Sermon might not be that good. I still think that there's an opportunity that he's going to be very good because I can't let go of what I saw at Ohio State, man. And it's exactly what you're talking about. Like, should I let it go? Probably at this point, it might be a little bit over. But guess what? I can't let it go. Last offseason, I was like, I think he's going to make this team. I still think he's the most talented running back on this team. And guess what? They outright cut him to keep Jordan Mason, okay? They outright cut him. So...
And Jordan Mason can't pass block, and they still cut Trey Sermon.
If there was ever a more screaming in my face, like, Vish, you're wrong on this one, that might have been the moment. And here I still am, like a preseason later, like, oh yes, I believe in Trey Sermon. So yeah, it's how it goes sometimes.
Before we go, and shout out to everybody, all the YouTube channel members. Again, become a YouTube channel member. Less than $3 a month. You get custom emojis, membership badges, priority comment response. Let's touch on Nick Bosa. Still not signed, obviously. I saw Tom Pelissero said that he thinks it's going to get done, that both teams kind of look at week 1 as the deadline. I know that he's in good shape. I get all that stuff, but I sure would like if Nick Bosa could get at least some snaps before having to play full go in the Steelers game in week 1. I don't know if you saw this soundbite. I actually posted it on our YouTube channel. It's a short. It's Chris Forrester. And he says he's never seen offensive linemen more tired than after the first drive of the year in the first regular season game of the year, because it's the first time where you just went absolutely nuts, full bore, 100% every single snap. And whether you play in the preseason or don't play in the preseason, that's when you're wiped out because there's nothing else like it. And I don't want Nick Bosa to have to just get thrown in, right to the Wolves week 1 without playing anything in the preseason. I don't care how good a shape he keeps himself in.
Yeah, I'm not bothered by this one. Aaron Donald in 2018, the year the Rams made the Super Bowl the first time with McVay, held out till August 31st or something like that, I want to say. I'm pretty sure Aaron Donald walked back in week 1. Yeah, he played every snap week 1 in 2019. And guess what? He was the best player on the field. Every snap week 1 in 2019. Chris Forrester, what he said, that applies to probably every player in the NFL. To me, there are certain exceptions, and this is one of the exceptions we're talking about. This is one of the guys that's a little bit different than everybody else. He's in a little better shape than everybody else. He's just a little bit different athlete than everybody else. And so I think he'll come in, he'll be himself, he'll dominate. And that's kind of what he does. That's always been his MO. He'll continue to do that. Now, I do think we're 10 days away from August 31st. Right. And so I would also like it to fall within the same timeline as Donald's, where you get it done before that. So I do think there's maybe a little more urgency from me today than there was a little bit before. But even when we're talking about Bosa as well, Rob, like, this is a guy that doesn't even do the offseason when he's there. He sprained his ankle his rookie year, so he was out basically the entirety of training camp. His second year, he had that groin or quad or something. Third year, he was rehabbing the ACL. And then last year, they kind of kept him in and out of practice. So this is the one exception to me. I do think your point probably applies for every other player in the NFL except for this guy and a couple other people.
It's possible. It's definitely possible, but I worry about everything. And let's be honest, without Bosa, this pass rush stinks.
Yeah, so can we touch on that? I do think that there's some depth concerns with the defensive line. I think that, sure, if Bosa, Hargrave, and Armstead are really healthy, it can be an excellent defensive line as it is every year. But I don't know if these guys can really hold their own if those guys don't have to make a lot of.
Yeah.
There was a third turnover. I only remember the Latu fumble and the Bell interception.
I'm putting this up there. I should have mentioned this when I put it up the first time. I apologize. Flave
this
says
was both games, right?
The third Darnold turnover. Yeah, I included turnovers on downs in those turnovers because to me, turnover on downs it's still a turnover.
It was who was the quarterback when they had the 4th and 1 stuffed?
Well, Lance was the quarterback for the run, and Darnold had a
Darnold got stuffed on the quarterback sneak. Correct.
So I put both of them in, especially because Lance should have taken that ball himself. But I included turnovers on downs in that graphic that was up earlier.
Did Shanahan confirm that though?
What about Trey?
About keeping it on that? I'd never heard him.
He didn't confirm it one way or
another.
Right.
I wasn't sure. I did see JT O'Sullivan say that he thinks it was a zone read, but I've also heard quarterbacks say that sometimes on those it's just a handed off. Yeah.
If I'm Trey Lance, I'm telling you what, I'm handing that thing off. I'm saying, look, I'm fighting for my career here. The one thing I can't have is an injury. If it's a regular season game, I'll hand it all, I'll run and go. But I am not doing that. Like, I wouldn't blame him if that was his thought. I'm not saying it was. I'm just saying if it were me. But anyway, going back to the pass rush really quick because we got to wrap this up. Without Bosa, it's scary. Drake Jackson does not look like he's taken any kind of leap. He's also been banged up a bunch too. The depth.
I'm not sure about that yet. I haven't seen Drake.
The depth on the offensive line or defensive line is not what it has been. They don't have DJ Jones just sitting there. I don't buy Javon Kinlaw going to be anything other than what he is, which is a giant human that somehow gets shoved out of the club way too often. I do worry. Bosa's better stay healthy, man. What? You're telling me I'm wrong about Javon Kinlaw?
No, I just thought the way you described that was a much better analogy. So I didn't like the first analogy, but I like this one. That one was a good one.
Well, I'll try to get my game elevated for you. I'm
just keeping you accountable, man.
All day, every day. Kim says, could Brock start anywhere else in the league? Have you seen who the Buccaneers are thinking about a quarterback?
Okay. Yeah, there's one for sure.
Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah, there's one for sure. Where else, though?
Well, okay, now I got to look at the teams really quick if you're asking me. Let's see. Washington.
Yeah, Washington for sure. Atlanta would be another one as well.
Absolutely, Atlanta. Green Bay, we don't know. They seem to like Jordan Love, but there's no guarantee Jordan Love is any good. Anthony Richardson is going to start with the Colts, but I think right now Brock Purdy is probably better than Anthony Richardson, although Richardson probably actually he does have a higher ceiling than Brock Purdy.
B-Bear brings up a good point in the comments with Kyler hurt Arizona for sure. He would start over Colt McCoy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Colt McCoy. Shout out to Colt McCoy, man. That dude has made an NFL career.
That was my comp for Brock Purdy after last offseason, seeing him in preseason. Lo and behold, what a terrible comparison by me.
I like Colt McCoy as a guy, though, and let's be honest, he doesn't really have a high.
He's a good player at Texas, dude.
Yeah, but
he's won so much.
Colt McCoy's been in the league for a long time. Yeah. A long time. Good for him, man.
Yeah. You remember the Niners days with Colt McCoy?
Oh, God. When was he drafted? He was drafted in
2010. Same draft as Tebow. That draft was him, Tim Tebow, Jimmy Clausen, and Sam Bradford. So really the who's who of college football, right?
Colt freaking McCoy. Anyway, all right. That's going to do it for this edition of the show. It's our longest show ever. This just keeps me thinking, keeps me on my toes. Like and subscribe to the Gold Standard YouTube channel and to Vish's YouTube channel, which is also streaming on. Just go search Vish Kumaran. It'll come right up. Follow him on Twitter at Vish Kumaran as well. I'm on Twitter and all the socials at Stats on Fire. Thank you to everybody. We love the Monday show, taking another deep dive on the game on Sunday. We will be doing an instant reaction show on Friday after the game. So please join us there. We'll be live all week on this channel, but definitely join us for the instant reacts as well. Vish, I hope you have a great rest of your Monday.
100%. And I'm so excited to watch this Friday. I'm hoping that it's a half of Trey Lance and a half of Sam Darnold. I don't care what order. Give me that. Or give me.
Kyle said the starters are going to play.
Oh, yeah. He did say that, didn't he? All right, fine. Give Brock Purdy a quarter. Gives. I kind of want to see a half of Trey Lance and a quarter of Sam Darnold.
Why play Sam Darnold? Is he going to be that much better with the reps?
If Sam Darnold doesn't play, then he's made the team.
Oh, I think he's making the team. I don't think there's any question that Sam Darnold's making the team.
But if he doesn't play also and Brock plays, I would think he's the backup too in that case. Because I would think it's screen showcase in that situation. If you're only playing one of the two quarterbacks, but yeah.
Kyle should say Brock's going to play however much he plays, and then we want to give all the rest of the reps to Trey Lance because you know what?
I agree.
That's what it should like.
You look good, didn't he? Finally, back-to-back games.
First time starting and finishing back-to-back games since 2019. Think about that, 2019, and he's done it one time since then. So that's
right, and that was against Ben DiNucci too. Because it was the FCS, the game before the FCS championship, and then the FCS championship against Ben DiNucci and James Madison. And now Here we are, and he's playing another back-to-back game against Ben DiNucci in Denver.
Full circle. And how about Jimmy Garoppolo's first game back from his injury was against Denver. Brock Purdy's first game back from his injury in the preseason against the Denver Broncos.
You see Jimmy yesterday? Talk about someone lighting it up. Woo!
No,
that swing pass looks sweet.
I don't have to care about Jimmy Garoppolo anymore. That's the magic of divorce, Vish. My life is better because I don't have to care about Jimmy Garoppolo anymore. Anyway,
I'm being very mean to poor Jimmy. He looked pretty good.
Yeah, that's a shame.
He's looking fucking good, man.
Jimmy Garoppolo, baby. All right, everybody. Have a good Monday.